She swept marble floors in a building she could never afford to enter, where every corner whispered power and every glance reminded her of her lack of belonging. One morning, the CEO summoned her. Laughter was tucked behind polished words, while he sought financial advice from the janitor, a joke to brighten his day. But what came next was just not funny. His world, built on arrogance and ignorance, was about to crack wide open. It is often those we overlook who hold the wisdom we so desperately need. And that morning, his lesson came wrapped in silence and truth. Every morning, before the sun rose, Maya would appear before this towering glass building that seemed to touch the clouds, where her presence was noticed only when something needed cleaning. She moved quietly down hallways lined with portraits of powerful faces, none of which looked like hers. Her life was basic. Long hours, a small apartment, and dreams she'd stopped speaking out loud. But behind the serene smile was a keen mind that counted every cent, understood every bill, and knew the quiet discipline of survival. Yet, to them in tailored suits, she simply didn't exist. Until one day, the CEO, a woman who had never struggled in her life, decided she needed to be the punchline of a morning joke. Little did Maya know, this would be a moment that would flip the balance of power entirely. That morning was like any other. Maya arrived at work early, with her mop in hand and her reflection stretched across the floor. Little did she know that the details of her life were about to become today's afternoon entertainment. Veronica hazed the young, rich, celebrated, self-made visionary led a gaggle of executives in the lobby, drinking cappuccinos and chuckling at their own jokes. When she saw Maya, she smirked. "Hey, Maya," she called out, waving her over as if permission to exist was a thing she could give. The room quieted. Dozens of sharp suits turned to watch the janitor approach, her faded uniform clashing against the sea of designer fabrics. Veronica tilted her head, pretending to think. "You're good with money, right? Tell us, what's your secret to financial success?" The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut. Maya froze, her heart thudding as every eye weighed her down. She could have walked away, swallowed the humiliation like always. But something inside her shifted. Perhaps it was exhaustion, or anger. Maybe it was the truth she had silently borne for far too long. She looked up, and her voice was steady, her words quiet, but certain. "The secret," she said, "is knowing the value of what others overlook." The room fell silent. Veronica blinked, unamused, as her colleagues looked at one another in confusion. Maya left the room, her face aflame, but not in shame this time, in resolve. Later that afternoon, there was hushed talk in the office. The CEO had checked her company's charity allocations, the same ones Maya so often helped organize by cleaning the storage rooms. Something didn't add up. Missing funds, unexplained transfers. Veronica's laughter from that morning suddenly echoed differently in her own head. That night, Maya stayed late, sweeping through the halls as usual. But this time, she wasn't just cleaning. She was thinking about power, pride, and the invisible line people like her were never supposed to cross. On her way out, she passed Veronica's office door, left half ajar. Inside, the chief executive stared at her computer screen, her face pale under the soft glow of the monitor. Maya did not know it yet, but she had just set something in motion that could not be undone. Because sometimes the smallest act of defiance, one sentence spoken in truth, can shake an empire built on arrogance. And this one was already beginning to crack. The air fell heavy the next morning, electric, charged with something no one could name. Maya was early as usual, her uniform crisp, her eyes calm. But she could feel the stares following her now. An internal email had leaked overnight. The company's financial records were under review. Anonymous tips, discrepancies, suspicion. Veronica stormed down the hall, her heels clicking like thunder. She found Maya near the elevators, mop in hand. "You think you're clever?" she hissed. "You think you can humiliate me?" Her voice cracked with fear masquerading as fury. The executives nearby froze, unsure whether to intervene or pretend not to see. Maya said nothing. The silence was louder than any defense. Moments later, the CEO appeared, holding a printed report. His voice shook as he spoke. The investigation shows the janitorial staff flagged the missing funds weeks ago. It was ignored. The truth came like a lightning strike. Eyes turned again not to Veronica this time, but to Maya, the woman they'd mocked, the woman they'd dismissed. Color drained from Veronica's face as she realized what she had done. Not just the fraud she had tried to bury, but the cruelty with which she had built her empire. Maya stood quietly, trembling hands and racing heart, not out of fear, but due to years of swallowed pain, finally breaking free. In a few moments, security entered, but it wasn't for Maya. Veronica was escorted out, her protests echoing down the marble corridor, the same one Maya cleaned every day. For the first time, that reflection on those polished floors looked different, not of a woman bowing her head, but standing tall. And yet, as she walked away, the whispers started once more, softer this time, but still there. Because even when truth wins, the stain of prejudice doesn't vanish overnight. Still, in that instant, Maya knew one thing. She had ceased to be invisible. In the weeks that followed, the story spread far beyond the glass walls of that building. News outlets called it the janitor who exposed the billionaire. But for Maya, it wasn't about revenge. It was about being seen, finally, as more than a uniform, more than a background shadow in someone else's success story. She didn't immediately quit her job. She kept coming to work, head held high, walking those same marble halls that once echoed with laughter at her expense. But now, when people looked her way, their eyes carried something different, a mixture of guilt, respect, and uneasy awareness. They couldn't unsee her anymore. It was not the missing money, but what Veronica's fall showed. It was all about a system that worked on arrogance and silent discrimination. Maya unwittingly became a symbol of proof that truth could rise from the lowest floor to shake the highest office. But even with justice served, Maya knew that the fight wasn't over. She saw new faces mopping those same halls, each one carrying their own story, their own quiet dignity. She'd stop sometimes, offer a kind word, a reminder, don't let them make you small. Her world had not changed overnight, but she had. And through her story, others began to question the jokes, the looks, the small cruelties disguised as humor. Because sometimes it's not the headlines that change the world, it's the whispers that follow them. So the next time you see someone cleaning the spaces you walk through, someone overlooked, underestimated, unseen, ask yourself, what wisdom might live in the silence you ignore? And more importantly, how many more Mayas will it take before respect becomes the rule, not the exception?